Hey guys, and welcome back to the internet once again. Have you guys noticed that a while ago this channel was basically just strictly entitled parents and entitled people stories, and now it seems like I don't even think we had one of those stories yesterday. It's nice to have more of a mixture. But I mean, in all honesty, I wish there was just one single subreddit where people would just tell crazy stories, because I think it's kind of dumb that we have to have all these very oddly specific types of stories. But anyway, let's jump into a choosing beggar conversation. Need to talk. Hi there, what's up? Got greenhouse still? Why is it free? Sure, I only posted it this morning and you're the first person to ask me. It's free because I don't need it at the moment and I want it out of the garden before my little girl starts walking. I will give you 50. What is this, Monty Python? I don't want paying, mate. I just want it gone ASAP. It was a gift to me, so I want to give it away in turn. All glass or plastic? It's all glass, and all the panes are complete and unbroken. Fine, I will have it. He gives his address, that's 70 miles away. I can't deliver it, my friend. It says on the ad you need to come and dismantle it and take it away. That's why it's free. I can't move it. I have only got a small car. Well, get a van or something. This is one of the reasons it's free, mate. I don't have time to take it down or move it. I just need it gone. I will ask my bro to borrow his truck. I will let you know. Okay, but if someone else says they can take it, I will accept the offer. What? Just wait. I am asking my brother now, just waiting for him. Can you help us? No, sorry. I can let you into the garden and make you a cup of tea, but I don't have time to help. No, I mean help lift it. We will lift it on the truck, not dismantle it. You mean with the glass in it? It will shatter, mate. It's not possible to move with the glass in it. Well, we can try, and if it doesn't work, we will just leave it. Might as well have a go. Sorry, dude, I don't think so. That just sounds like my garden will be covered in broken glass. We will do it. We can move his van next to where it is now. And that would mean someone driving over my lawn. Sorry, that's not happening. Fine, can you just deliver, please? It can be any time this week or in the evening. Sorry, mate, no. I think I'll just wait for someone who can take it to bits and take it away. I have already organized with my brother. When can we come round? What time? Sorry, mate, I've accepted an offer from someone else. He is collecting it today. What the heck, man? I offered to collect it. I offered to have it delivered. Why now are you just wasting my time? Sorry, mate, I did say I would accept the first offer from someone who could take it down and remove it. I said you could bring it whenever. Thanks, time waster. Time waster? My brother has rented a van to get this. We know where you live. We know where you live. Man, this guy's all over the place. I offered to let you deliver it to me for free. My favorite part of this story is when he just says, we will just load it up into the truck all in one piece, and if it just shatters and gets destroyed, we'll just leave it. You know, might as well give it a shot. Alright, now let's get into the first actual story, called You Want It All? Enjoy shutting down for the afternoon. I work in a children's hospital, and my job is to send progress notes to insurance companies to convince them to pay for children's cancer treatments because apparently that's something you need to do. Most all transactions work the same. I fax the insurance company the notes that we call clinicals, and they fax us back something saying, yes, the patient is approved for those days. Please fax notes again in 4 days. There's one local insurance company that we deal with a fair amount that is just the absolute worst. They send fax after fax with incomplete information on it, with no information, with wrong birthdays so that we can't find the patient, etc. They've occasionally sent faxes with no other identifying information than their own file number for the patient. Like, we don't use your system, idiots. They send denials for the stupidest things, usually because they didn't receive clinical, until I call them and say, we sent it yesterday at 2:52 p.m., and I have a confirmation that it went through if you'd like the number. Oh, okay, there it is. The worst, though, is that one of the main nurses always pluralizes clinicals as clinicals with an apostrophe. Ugh. Anyway, we've had a patient of theirs here for literally hundreds of days. They typically send approved or denied days. Every couple of days. But for this patient, we got approved days the first week or so, but nothing since then. I call them about once a week and say, hey, did you get the clinicals I sent? Yes? Then can you fax back approved days? They always say, it's pretty much approved, or I'll send your request to the case manager, but I never hear anything back. I think the case manager that started this quit, and the case is just in some weird bureaucratic netherworld. Most likely every other case manager doesn't want to do it because they'll have to review everything. This patient discharged last week finally, she's healthy, and so I need to know the status of those days so that I can close her out on my list. I call the company and say, this patient that I've been calling about, I really need an actual fax with an actual authorization number so that I can close this and not gamble a multi-million-dollar account on someone saying, yeah, I think she's approved. The woman on the phone still balks, and I say I really need it faxed today. That every day of the clinical has been sent over the past 9 to 10 months. She starts getting frustrated and says she'll call me back. I tell her that's been told to me before and no one has called. She says, fine, just refax the clinical for days you don't have. I've already faxed everything. Well, I don't see it, and it would just be easier for you to fax them again. I've already told her how many days were missing, but I was tired of dealing with her and I had time. So I spent the next 45 minutes going through his patient's charts and putting all of the clinical for almost the past year into one document that totaled over 150 pages. I faxed it to her. My hospital is pretty nice and modern, so although we deal with faxes every day, we don't have a fax machine, so as much as a program that collects and treats everything like a PDF. Much easier. Apparently, the smallish insurance company still uses paper faxes because about 20 minutes later, I get a call from someone else that's asking me to cancel the fax I sent because it's been 30 minutes, and it's only on page 20 or so. I say that I cannot cancel the fax because I've been requested to send everything. She hangs up, another call comes from them a minute or so later, but it's my lunchtime, so I ignore it and go about my merry way. I get a fax from them later that afternoon that just says, all days approved, case closed. I hope I ruined their whole day, especially since they are terrible and apparently too stupid to know how to cancel a fax from their side. I know I've said this before, but how do companies like this actually stay in business? Alright, moving on to, customer refuses to donate to charity and demands I give up my pay for it. So for clarity, I live in a tiny rural town in Australia. Everyone knows each other and the local meth addict kind of town. It's completely feral, and I have many a story for that some other time. I work in a popular dollar store in said town. I have worked there for nearly a year now, but this store has been there since I was a kid. Every year they have a charity week, where all the employees collect donations, which are then sent off to a bigger charity that the store has sponsored at the end of the week. It's quite fun, and I got to dress up. I had a system to asking for donations. To avoid it being awkward, my feral aunt/boss doesn't seem to understand the concept that people who pay with card don't often have spare change on them to give, and had a go at me for the way I did things. But hey, we still raised nearly $850 in that one week, so I must have done alright. Anyways, anyone who paid with cash or had a purse or wallet on them, I would ask if they would like to donate, and explain to them the charity we were raising for. I can't remember the name, but it was for kids with heart diseases, which caused a lot of people to donate right off the bat. As I was working one day, with a rainbow wig and all, this young girl goes up to the counter, presumed mom following in tow, eyes on her phone. I'm fine with parents being on their phone, I barely got off mine so I can relate, but she just did not look up, not even as she was turning corners or anything. I walk over behind the counter and scan all the girl's stuff. She was so excited, clearly having just gotten out of school, and had a diary and some pens. The mom sits her phone down, screen still on messages, then grabs her purse and fishes through it and pulls out a $20. Because she's paying with cash, I ask, would you like to donate to charity? She looks at me like I was freaking Nightcrawler. This was the following exchange. What? We have a donation box set up. Would you like to donate any loose change you have rattling around? Why? Me dumbfounded. Because it's for children with heart conditions, to help them. Why would I give my hard-earned cash to some random cashier? It's fine, you don't have to donate. I just ask everyone. Why don't you donate? I already have. We have the option to donate some of our pay to charity. It is just taken out of the total when we sign. I gave $50 with everyone else. She said, really? How much? If you really cared, you would give all of your savings, but you're just some dumb kid. Thankfully, I had a regular who was waiting in line. She shoved her basket forward onto the counter, pushing the woman out of the way, silently giving her the biggest F you. She just stormed off, and I put her $12 change in the donation box like I was instructed to do with everyone else. The people in line all dumped their change from their pockets into the box. I have so many other stories of crazy city people coming into this local shop and just messing up my whole day, but this was probably one of the weirdest experiences. Oh, that reminds me, you guys should all donate to my charity that I've just created. It's called Counseling for Karens. It's a great program that helps entitled people learn that they're not the center of the world. It might even go to help the person in this next story, called Entitled Mom Claims She's the Landlord with the Landlord in Earshot. So I live in a small city with Scottish influences, and me and my family rent a house across from the park where the city holds events, and the day this took place was the day of the Highlander Festival. It's just a really popular one-day thing where even people from the city over come to. Now the city is pretty good with parking, and we let family and friends park in our driveway if they ask. But no one is allowed to park on private property unless they are told they can. So I'm sitting in the living room watching TV, everyone who lives in my house is at work, and then I look out the window and see this van pulling into our driveway. I watch just to make sure they're not trying to turn around, and surprise, surprise, they don't. The car turns off and out comes an entitled mom, so I get up and go to the driveway. Entitled mom was just starting to get her 3 kids out of the car when I come up to her. I say, "Excuse me, ma'am, do my parents know you?" "Why would your parents know me?" "Because we usually only let family and friends park in our driveway, and if you're neither, I'm going to have to ask you to park in the public parking." She says, "No, I don't. There is no one in this driveway except this truck." I say, "Oh, that's a friend's truck." She then gives me that "yeah, right" look, then proceeds to get her kids out of the van, but I'm not having it. I say, "Ma'am, you really can't park in our driveway." She says, "And why is that?" "Because it's private property, and I can Do your parents own the house?" I say, "Excuse me?" "Do your parents own this house?" I say, "No, we're Then you have no right to kick me out of the driveway if you don't own the property." Now I don't know a lot about renting a house, but I know for a fact that what she said is not true. Also, at this point, the 3 kids are out of the van. One says, "Can we go now, Mommy? Please, we have been waiting forever. I want to go play." She says, "Yes, we can go now. Mommy just needed to talk to this young man about watching the car." At this point, I'm about to snap. I say, "We are not done here. Let's just call our landlord and see what they say." Now I definitely do not have our landlord's number, but the look on her face tells me she's buying it. She says, "There's no need for that." I say, "Why? You just said that I can't kick you off the property, only the landlord can." She now looks like she knows she's done for, so here comes the Hail Mary. She also started to raise her voice at this point. "I'm the landlord, and I say I can park on my property." Probably shouldn't have yelled that, Susan, because walking on the sidewalk is the landlord and his wife. They don't live far from the park in our house. Like I said, it's a small city, and then he walks over. He says, "Odd, I don't recall selling this land to anyone." The entitled mom realizes that she messed up. I tell the landlord what happened. She says, "You're lying, you don't own this property." "Well, actually I do. I remember signing the deed, and I also believe this young man was telling you not to park in their driveway." She says, "Fine, whatever. I'll just tell the cops that you attacked me while forcing me off your driveway." She then loads her kids into the van and screeches out of the driveway. The landlord says, "Well, that's that, I guess." Man, that landlord sounds like a pretty chill guy. Just remember, counseling for Karens. Although I guess this one was a Susan. Alright, on to my big final story of the day, called "Illegally Park and Block Driveways in Our Neighborhood and Do It Consistently While Throwing a Party? Expect What's Coming." 2 years ago, a new family moved into our quiet little neighborhood and began their reign of terror. We've lived here for over 20 years in this neighborhood, and except for these past 2 years, it's been wonderful. I love our neighbors, except this family. This family sucks. I'm not even sure where to begin. They are loud, they're dirty, they're obnoxious, their dog barks at all hours. They're constantly yelling at each other. They throw parties well into the night. They steal my older neighbor's paper. They actually train their Rottweiler to fetch the neighbor's paper. Impressive, but wrong. They throw their dog's poo into other yards. So much. They even cut my 80-something-year-old neighbor's prized roses for themselves. Who does that? There are about 100 issues I could write about and how we've all dealt with them, but the past weekend was my own glorious take on it all. Oh, and yes, we've tried talking to them, we've tried inviting them over, we've done nice things for them, and all we've expected is that they act like decent neighbors, and that's never happened. So in our neighborhood, parking is scarce. Most of these homes are classic 1950s with a single-lane driveways, and parking is limited even on the streets. There's a busy road a few blocks away that has a great nightlife and popular restaurants, which means that at times, especially on the weekends, the streets can fill up. This family has 4 drivers and 5 vehicles with only enough space for 2 in their driveway at a time. Constantly, they would park and leave their vehicles for days, and sometimes weeks, in front of others' homes. Sometimes leaving their driveway empty for no reason, with all of their cars parked on the road. I kind of believe that, in itself, isn't that big of a deal, except for how and when they would do it. They were intentional about it all, would do so to try to and cause the most grief with everyone. And this went on for months. A complete FU to everyone. After months of this, and no one retaliating or giving them satisfaction of how pissed we all were, They started parking deliberately in ways to make it difficult to get out of our driveways. I had to have my husband come out most mornings to guide me so I wouldn't hit their cars as I backed out of my own driveway. There were also times where they squeezed my neighbor's car on the street to where they couldn't get out. Finally, an older retired neighbor goes down to the city police station and inquires about what to do. They found a code or law stating that so much space from the sides of the driveway and yada 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 is required. So we come home one night to freshly painted yellow curbs outlining everyone's house surrounding this one. A few weeks ago, my husband's car breaks down and he has to get it towed. On his way back, he starts talking with the tow truck driver about these a-hole neighbors and their cars. He tells my husband that if these cars are parked illegally, we should call the non-emergency line, and if they receive a ticket, to call him and he can tow them at owner's expense. It's the law. My husband and him keep talking and even meet up for a beer a few nights later. About a month ago, we met a couple in our fair city, and it just so happens that the husband is an officer. We were already planning on meeting that Friday night, and when we met, I brought up the a-hole neighbors and their parking. He says that he'll drive through on his shift if he gets the time, and if he sees them parked in the yellow, he had no problem ticketing them. Great. He also has some of his friends to check it out when they have time too. Fantastic. We've been calling almost daily at this point about their cars parked illegally, but nothing was happening. That Saturday night, he sends me a text saying he's ticketed 3 cars. I missed that text, so no tow truck, but I kind of figured with the 3 tickets they'd get the idea. They didn't. Off and on all week it was the same. This past Saturday, the teenage son throws a party, and everyone, I mean every single one of their guests and them, parked in the yellow of someone's driveway or blocked someone out altogether. Obviously, the little turd told all of his friends to block our driveways or block our cars in. I sent a text to our officer friend who told me to call the non-emergency line and he'd be the one to look into it. But I'm scheming bigger. I call up the tow truck driver and tell him that there's at least 15 cars parked illegally, and all are about to receive parking tickets for blocking driveways and cars. I let him know that we are friends with an officer, and he and I scheme a little further. We get a solid plan. I call our officer friend and tell him our plan, and I also mention that the party is likely going to be filled with underage drinkers. Now, I hate busting parties, but I make exceptions for little turds, and especially little underage drinking and driving turds. He and I finalize the plan. Here's how it all went down. So the officer and 3 of his partners go through the neighborhood citing all of the cars. Meanwhile, our tow truck driver friend has assembled a group of drivers in the nearby grocery store parking lot. My husband and I make anonymous calls about possible underage party. The tow truck drivers start at the ends of our streets, grabbing the cars as quickly as possible. A few alarms here and there, but no way they could hear it in the party. They approach the house. My husband makes an anonymous call about an underage party in our neighborhood. Conveniently, our officer friend just so happens to still be in the neighborhood, so he and his partner go over to the house to check on it. As they knock on the door, lights go out, music shuts off, and the house goes quiet. At this moment, the tow trucks come in and are now towing the remaining 5 cars right from in front of their home. I just wish I could see the kids' faces inside, as they are all having a dilemma about what to do. Do they go out and bust themselves for underage drinking and try to stop their cars from being towed? Or do they just sit and bite the bullet and watch 250 plus go down the drain? On Sunday, they had 3 cars returned from being towed, and all 3 were parked just shy of the yellow lines. I call this a win. My husband and a couple of neighbors also spent Sunday putting up some new cameras. They were all very giddy and loud about it. Something about all the lights and police on Saturday made them nervous. Well, I didn't actually intend to have 2 stories in a row about blocking driveways, but I think they both turned out pretty well. Man, this neighborhood reminds me a lot of my own. I live in a very old, 1950s old people neighborhood with 1-car driveways, so I know exactly what they're talking about. In fact, I used to have some neighbors that lived across the street that were almost as bad as these guys. When I moved into this place a couple years ago, I always tell my friends, yeah, I live over in this city, and everyone's like, oh, isn't that place ghetto? And I'm like, no, it's not that bad anymore. I mean, I hear that it used to have a high crime rate, but for the most part, it's pretty calm now. With one exception, my neighbors across the street, I think they were involved in gangs or something. You could tell there were always people showing up for short amounts of time. I'm pretty sure they were selling drugs or something. And you would just have people all hanging out in front of the house or messing around in the middle of the road. And I was sometimes afraid to even go outside of my own house. But then eventually they had some drive-by shootings at their house. I actually heard gunshots from outside, and I go and look out the front window, and then there's a bunch of police cars later. And then I go out and see there's bullet holes in their car that was parked outside. And I'm like, wow, I'm glad they didn't hit my car. And I'm just thinking, man, this really doesn't help the case when I'm trying to tell all my friends that this is a nice area now, because we've got like the one bad apples across the street. But then they got evicted like a month later, so it's been pretty calm since then. And the question of the day is, Hot Topic employees of Reddit, what are your horror stories? If you want to hear the responses, wait till later tonight. There's a lot of long responses to this one that I want to get to, and this video is already going too long, so I'm just going to make a separate video later tonight. So stick around, maybe subscribe if you want to see that later, and I will be posting again maybe in about 8 hours. We'll see. So I'll talk to you then.